our Bavaria 44 is now 20 years old. So our port lights, the plastic in the port lights is getting quite crazed. And I want to see if I can rejuvenate the plastic. Instead of buying new port lights, I'm going to kind of do a test and see whether I can rejuvenate the port lights. You can see the port light. Well, it's just raining at the moment, which is a nuisance, but they have a very fine craze on the surface. We'll go inside and have a look. Let's look at the window from the inside. This is a Luma port light. You can see it's quite crazed. You can still see out, but the clarity is very poor. Just gotta watch, it's raining on the outside at the moment. See the crazing? This crazing is, from the best I can tell, only on the exterior surface. About a mil deep. So I'm hoping I can either sand it off, heat it off, or do something to get rid of it. This area has a recess. Oh, get focus. Recess, that is what sits on the rubber seal. I'm going to take the port light off. Just take this off. I can undo these screws. There's an Allen key on one side and a captured nut on the other. I'll undo these three, take it off, take it to the workshop and do some testing. I've got the bolts loose. I just pull this bolt out and pull this bolt out, the window will come off. Okay, now we can go to the workshop. Just to be sure I don't get water in the boat, I've covered the porthole with a layer of plastic. In our boat we have 8 of these large port lights and we have 4 smaller ones about half the size. So if I have to buy new plastics for each one, it'll be quite an expensive exercise. And heading to the workshop. Now that we're at the workshop, let's have a better look at the port light. Port light's Luma. This is the interior surface. The locks and the hinges are glued on somehow. Quite sophisticated design. Well glued. Would be quite difficult to remake an entire piece and glue the hinges on successfully. So the main option is to rejuvenate it or buy a new one. And the first thing I notice is that this is it has quite a curve. The inside surface is quite smooth, and from what I can peering through, all the crazing is on the exterior surface. It's either sun damage, chemical damage, all on the exterior surface. The landing area does not appear to have much crazing. I think that's because it does not get much sunshine. I can see the original routering marks. So this has been machined to a set thickness according to the hinge locations so that the seal can work properly. This is quite convenient for me because it means that I have a 1 mil, 1.5 mil upstand that I can work with. The options for remedy that I'd like to work with, first up, I'd like to try and flame it. I've done this flaming quite a bit on the edges of acrylic, where you melt the edges and it becomes quite shiny and smooth. I've never done large flat surfaces, so I'm going to have to practice a little bit of that. If I flame it and it's not smooth enough, then I will probably have to sand it, where I have 80, 180, 240 and 600 grit sandpaper, and then polish it. If that doesn't work and I need to be a bit more aggressive, I have a router. I could effectively router this across, and get rid of 1 millimeter. And hopefully that would take all the crazing away, and then again back into sanding, polishing. You can see the acrylic edge is not shiny, it's actually been cut on the machine, saw bench. So let's try. Just turn that down a bit. See, just melting it. See the surface melt? From there, could sand and polish that up quite conveniently. It does distort the corner a little bit. Oh, it's getting warm. Time to put my gloves on. Okay, now let's try some on the flat area. I'm going to put some scratches in my test sample so that I have something to work with. On. Yeah. 180 grit. Now we'll flame that. Maybe a bit more. Yep. Through the edges. That's worked quite well. I think I still need to do a 600 grit sand and a polish, but that's working okay. I've noticed an issue which may be a problem. It's created a bit of a curve. This already has a curve, so could be an issue. Definitely could be an issue. As the acrylic's cooling, the shape's coming back straight, which is nice to see. And you can, that's good. All right, time to be brave. Woohoo! It doesn't appear to like heat at all. It's not acrylic, eh? See, no more. Nope. Heat is definitely not the answer. Wonder if I give it a little bit more. We're going to try a little bit more. Oh, it just melts and bubbles the surface. Heat? Verdict? No. Okay. That does not look good. I've changed to 80 grit sandpaper, and I'm going to sand the heated area and this part alongside and see how that works. Wow, all that sanding. It doesn't look like I'm removing it. Got a lot of sanding down here to do. You can see the crazing is still in the plastic. Here where I've heated it, there's less crazing, but it's not as clear. You can see the pit holes. So the crazing is quite deep. It's not on the surface so much. I think I have to do a lot more sanding to see if sanding works. Now I've done an additional 5 minutes sanding in that area. It's not bad. This is 80 grit, so it's not smooth. It appears to have some real deep ones, but that pretty much looking all right. I'm going to go up through the grits, make sure that you actually can get it shiny. I'm going to work my way up through the grits, make sure I can get that shiny. This is now 180 grit. Okay, time to find some polish. I've got some 3M fast cut. I'm going to try that, See how that works. Oh. To it. How's that? I can still see a very fine. Can you see that on the surface? It looks like it's actually on the back surface when I do that. Like the interior surface has a very fine. Okay. I'm going to sand all the rest. See how long that takes me. I've just spent 1 hour sanding this with 80 grit. And I've basically sanded close to the millimeter off. It's just the faint line around the outside. And that means that 95% of the crazing has gone. Look at this. I've found the polishing bonnet. That's going to save me a lot of work. I found using a polisher we use on the boats. Oh. Not that fast. Let's try that. I'm sanding this with 240 grit to give the inside a sand because it has a fine crazing. I'll do 240, 400, 600, and I hope that improves the inside surface. Pretty hard to polish and work on the inside because of these hinges and I've spent 3 hours sanding and polishing this, and see the clarity? Looks pretty good. So now let's go back to the boat, install it, and get the final verdict. It looks like it's got a bit of a purple colour. That goes back up here. Oh, as soon as you put it up there, you get the... Okay, I'll put the fountains back in, and then we'll have a close look. Yes, okay, stays open, stays in position. It definitely is possible to rejuvenate the windows. They're never going to come up perfect. I think if you want a perfect, then you have to buy a new one. The majority of the polishing I have to do is on the inside here because it's just so difficult to get around these hinges and locks, especially with that big polishing unit I had. I think I'll look in the hardware shop and see if I can get a small polishing unit, and then I can do that here even with it in place. And let's compare it to the cabin alongside. Can't see out at all. Back to, that's quite amazing. Would you spend the time to do this? Would you spend the time to do all 8? Don't forget to add up what you think the cost is going to be if you're going to replace that many. It's quite high. And if I think it's worth it, that means I've got another 7 large ones to do and 4 small ones. Maybe spread them over quite a period of time. Do you think it's worth it? Leave a yes or no in the comments, and we'll see how many people would put the effort into doing this. Would you go in and have a look? Right, go to the other room, have a look.
Here.
What do you think I've done?
Difference. This next older one.
And this one?
This next, you change a new one. Next clear. All clear.
Thank you. Which one is best?
This one best.
Do you want the rest of them in the boat to look like that?
Yes, I like this one.
Oh no, I've got to fix them all. Well folks, it got the nod of approval from my wife. Looks like I have to do the rest of them on the boat. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button and I'll see you next week.